Tonight, Australia eyes an early mark. National Cabinet brings forward its review of the coronavirus restrictions. Good evening, I'm Jeremy Fernandez. This is ABC News. Rugby League takes a step towards restarting as Queensland agrees to let the players in. International students plead for state government support as the lockdown hits hard. And the snow falls, but the skiers stay home. Fears a bumper snow season may go to waste. After more than a month of oppressive restrictions in the name of public health, Australians look set to be rewarded. The nation's leaders have agreed to consider fast-tracking the way out of isolation that's kept most of the country homebound for 6 weeks. They're not saying which measures will go, but it is the clearest sign yet we're on the road out of the crisis. Here's National Affairs correspondent Greg Jennett.
Australia's class of 2020 leaders convened once more, remote and secure in its cyber bunker. Before the principal told the full assembly the news a fidgety nation's been waiting for.
Australians have earned an early mark through the work that they have done.
Google does track people.
The data's convinced them.
Generally, people are doing the right thing.
Gold star behaviour means this time next week, social restrictions will start to be peeled back.
They're all obviously being reviewed, and that'll bring about a welcome relief for the community.
There are no hints on which ones will be the first to go, but some work, maybe non-essential shopping and gatherings, especially outdoors, would be early options for easing. States and territories will decide. Until then,
it'll help us stop the spread sooner.
There's one activity done digitally that Scott Morrison's insisting must be practiced by millions.
Downloading the COVID Safe app. We need that tool. Downloading the COVID Safe app is the major obstacle. So it's over to you, Australia.
Tracing the financial costs of the last 2 months takes care of itself. Treasury's still convinced unemployment will top 10%. 650,000 businesses have registered for the JobKeeper payment, and nearly 1 million people want their super early, requests totalling almost $8 billion. Add to that another $200 million for aged care homes, around $1,000 per resident.
This will contribute towards the genuine extra costs that they are incurring as they manage the COVID-19 outbreak.
A constant regime of medical testing as well as a watchful eye on that vanishing curve of virus cases will remain. But the surest sign that a resilient Australia's almost back to rude good health, sporting competitions aren't far away either.
We can't keep Australia under the doona.
7 days and a deluge of downloads are all that stand in the way. Greg Jennett, ABC News, Canberra.
The extra support that's been announced for the aged care sector was prompted largely by major outbreaks in New South Wales nursing homes. The Dorothy Henderson Lodge is now infection-free, but the virus continues to spread through Western Sydney's Newmarch House. Lily Mayers is there tonight. Lily, what's the latest?
Jeremy, this morning we learned another resident within the home has died after contracting COVID-19. The 74-year-old man is the 13th resident to die since this outbreak began 3 weeks ago. Yesterday, 3 more cases were diagnosed. That's brought the total cases to 59, 22 among staff and 37 in residents. Despite regular visits from infectious disease specialists, this virus is still spreading. And today, the Federal Aged Care Minister, Richard Colbeck, said the amount of cases here is worrying, but he spoke highly of the home's makeshift hospital.
We're effectively running a mini hospital within the facility. There are doctors there on site all the time. There are a very large cohort of nurses there, as well as the normal care workers.
And Lily, what have relatives of the residents at the home had to say about the standard of care that's been given?
Jeremy, some families couldn't fault the quality of care here at Newmarch. However, one family have told us their relative wasn't seen by a doctor from the moment they tested positive to COVID-19 to the moment they died 4 days later. The family have also said the home isn't functioning like a hospital, in that nurses don't have the resources to administer hospital-grade sedatives, they aren't able to x-ray residents to see fluid in their lungs, and there isn't full-time supervision of their vitals. We put those claims to Anglicare this afternoon, but we've had no response.
Lily Mayers reporting, thank you. The Prime Minister says the NRL won't get special treatment, even as the league pushes ahead with plans to restart competition in less than 4 weeks. The only club based overseas is yet to get the green light to fly into Australia, and players have yet to sign off on a pay offer. But the league did get some good news from the Queensland Premier, who's agreed to allow teams to cross the border. Here's national sports reporter David Mark.
The New Zealand Warriors are the key to unlocking the NRL season, but they're still yet to get an exemption to fly into Australia.
That authority has not been provided, and no amount of reporting it will change that decision. That will be made on the basis of the border assessments of the Australian Border Force.
Not even that keenest of rugby league fans is prepared to prejudge the decision.
They're just doing their job and they'll do it in the same way, and there'll be no special treatment for the NRL or any other code.
But there was some good news today for the NRL after a meeting between the chairman, Peter V'landys, and the Queensland Premier, Anastasia Palaszczuk.
She said her Chief Medical Officer was very impressed with our protocols and that they're very comprehensive. So she has approved us both training in Queensland and playing in Queensland, which we did not expect.
That means the other 13 teams can cross the border to play games, and the Queensland sides won't have to base themselves in Sydney.
Now we can plan knowing exactly where we will be, and people will be home with their families in an environment that they're comfortable with and they know. So that's a positive for us.
But there are still some hurdles to overcome, which could put Tuesday's start date for training in doubt. The players are yet to agree to the NRL's pay offer, which is believed to be worth 80% of their usual wage, and they're still waiting for the league's biosecurity plans.
Once they're finalised, then they'll be in a position to be put forward to the players. And right now, they're just working through those final touches and making sure that once it's presented to the players, it's a finished product.
Regardless of how the NRL gets to its finished product in 4 weeks' time, the National Cabinet today confirmed fans will be locked out. David Mark, ABC News.
Families and friends have been reuniting today as tough restrictions around social movements are eased just a little. In New South Wales, groups of 2 people and their children are now allowed to visit another household in an effort to reduce social isolation and improve mental health. It comes as the state recorded 9 new cases of COVID-19.
The month-long wait is finally over for Malcolm and Lorraine Chuck. But some old habits are hard to break.
No cuddles here.
The couple have found adjusting to the sudden absence of a busy family life difficult.
We've been playing snakes and ladders. Who won snakes and ladders?
It's been hard. Sometimes I'm here for breakfast and doing the school run.
But then that all just came to a stop.
You see them on the phone and everything, but it's not the same, and it's slightly strange because I really want to, my instinct is just to embrace them, but I still can't do that, so it's still a little bit strange.
There were similar scenes in Greenacre as the Dadoon family came together for their first iftar feast of Ramadan.
The radiant warmth that we felt coming to Mum and Dad was overwhelming. It was unexplainable.
Family is everything to me, and without my family, it's, the life is going to be empty.
New South Wales residents are being urged to be responsible in how they manage the slight easing of lockdown restrictions.
Make sure you ask the questions. You shouldn't go to someone's home who's not well, and you certainly shouldn't be leaving your home if you're not well.
For those who do venture out, a new interactive heat map now provides a clearer image of COVID-19 hotspots, pinpointing the number of active cases in each suburb. New modelling from Apple and Google shows that people are adhering to social distancing measures across the state, with phone searches for driving directions falling dramatically and more people being tracked staying at home. Despite remaining cautious, Malcolm and Lorraine squeeze in a second visit, this time to their son and his family around the corner.
Happy birthday!
We'll see how it goes today, I think, and then judge it from that.
Put us back in isolation.
Could be a case of too much too soon after so much time apart.
Perfect.
Antoinette Collins, ABC News, Sydney.
And a little later in the program, what do a DJ, an oyster farmer and a milliner have in common? We'll take a look at their lessons from life in isolation. Donald Trump is threatening to impose more trade tariffs against China if it's found to have misled the world over the coronavirus outbreak. Meanwhile, the Chinese government is accusing the US of trying to shift blame for its own handling of the pandemic at home. North America correspondent David Lipson reports from Washington.
On liberties that have been trampled upon.
Another day in America, another armed protest. This one in Michigan saw dozens gain entry to the Capitol building to demand the state reopen.
If people are going to die, I'm sorry, you only have as much power as you have.
They want to go back to work, so do 30 million others. That's the number who've now filed for unemployment benefits in the past 6 weeks.
It's not acceptable what happened. And now what we're doing, Jim, is we're finding out how it came out.
US intelligence agencies have concluded the coronavirus was not man-made or modified, but in a statement said they're still examining whether it began through contact with infected animals or if it was the result of an accident in a lab.
Have you seen anything at this point that gives you a high degree of confidence that the Wuhan Institute of Virology was the origin of this virus?
Yes, I have. Yes, I have.
There's nothing that we have that would indicate that was the likely source. Now, you can't rule anything out.
And if US investigators conclude China deliberately misled,
it's something that is going to have to be dealt with.
Beijing has taken a dim view of such tough talk.
At this particular time, they should focus on domestic epidemic control and international cooperation, rather than attack, smear and shift the blame to China.
Your people are now dying.
Chinese state media is mocking America's pandemic response. One former White House advisor says the coronavirus has cemented a sharper US strategy on China.
Coronavirus has actually galvanized the United States on both the left and the right that we need to make a change. And so, whatever happens in 2020, I think you're going to see increased enforcement on Chinese companies.
Whether all this talk will lead to action remains unclear. Donald Trump has raised the prospect of further trade tariffs, but China has shown before it's not afraid to retaliate. David Lipson, ABC News, Washington.
South Korea has recorded its first day without community transmission since the outbreak took hold on the peninsula. The nation has gone from being one of Asia's hardest hit countries to a success story for containing the pandemic. North Asia correspondent Jake Sturmer has this report.
It's like a scene from before the pandemic. People gathering in public places in South Korea's capital, enjoying the sunshine at the start of the annual May holiday period. There are even travellers at domestic air terminals as the tourism industry continues to operate. But look more closely and you can see the precautions in place. Masks, hand hygiene and disinfection are the norm here. In February, South Korea was hit with one of the first coronavirus outbreaks, centred on a religious sect in the city of Daegu. But authorities instituted a vigorous testing and contact tracing regime, finding people who'd been near infected patients and stopping them from spreading the virus further. Privacy concerns took second place to public health.
It is a violation against privacy, but it is necessary.
I myself check in the website to find out about new cases and where they are.
Social distancing, like this outdoor exam, has also been rigorously applied. The payoff? South Korea has just had its first day with no community transmission, allowing restrictions on movement and business to be eased.
For all of the success South Korea is having, it's a different story here in Japan. Dozens of new infections are being discovered every day, and the government is set to extend the state of emergency it declared in April by a month.
The government lockdown isn't compulsory and some people are ignoring it. Like South Korea, Japan also has a Golden Week holiday in early May. The coming days will be crucial if the country is to avoid a resurgence in infections. Jake Sturmer, ABC News, Tokyo.
The European economy has shrunk at its fastest pace on record, and both France and Italy are now in recession. The grim figures reveal how much coronavirus lockdowns have affected the economy by turning cities into ghost towns. In Europe, a first estimate of GDP data from the January to March quarter showed a contraction of 3.8%. And the European Central Bank is warning the situation will only get worse.
The sharp downturn in economic activity in April suggests that the impact is likely to be even more severe in the second quarter.
France's economy had its worst quarterly results since World War II. Italy also slid into recession. Back home, the state government's under growing pressure to give support to international students impacted by the coronavirus pandemic. There are more than 200,000 international students in New South Wales, and most are now jobless.
Amandeep Kaur Hunda has enjoyed studying in Sydney for the past year. But 2 months ago, she lost her job as a hotel room attendant. Now her future is uncertain.
It's very hard to survive here without any job because, I have to pay my rent, grocery and fees.
The 23-year-old has turned to charities for groceries but worries how she'll continue to pay the bills.
My family is supporting me from last 2 months. But, as you know, the situation is same in India. So now they can't provide me any help.
There are nearly 600,000 international students in Australia. Most have lost their jobs but are ineligible for JobSeeker or JobKeeper payments. In the absence of federal welfare, Victoria, South Australia and Tasmania have announced one-off cash payments for affected students. While the ACT, Queensland, Northern Territory and Western Australia have launched support schemes. But New South Wales has yet to deliver any assistance.
Fair discussions which are happening at a national level. The New South Wales government hasn't made any decision in that regard at this stage.
The state opposition wants the government to match Victoria's $1,100 payments.
We take their fees, and in some cases those fees are around $18,000 to $20,000 a semester. We take their fees, we ask them to work and pay tax, yet in the bad times we leave them to fend for themselves.
The international education sector says the state's reputation is on the line.
Many of the countries we compete against in this $40 billion a year industry for Australia, such as New Zealand, the UK, Canada, are offering normal welfare program access to international students who've lost their part-time jobs.
State, territory and federal governments discussed the issue of international student support at today's National Cabinet meeting. It's understood the New South Wales government is working on a support package for international students, but when that will be delivered is not yet known. For Amandeep, that financial assistance can't come soon enough. Lydia Feng, ABC News, Sydney.
Well, it has been a cold and windy day across the state. Graham's with us. Graham, any records broken?
Look, at this stage, no, Jeremy. Certainly not records for the month of May. Most areas saw very cold temperatures today. We're sitting around about 4 to 5 degrees above the coldest day on record, although as we move through the next couple of days and records are looked at, we might find that some areas have had recorded the coldest temperatures this early in May. And it was certainly very cold around the central and southern tablelands, the southern slopes and also parts of the Riverina. Most of these areas sat in single figures right through the day, and we still have wind warnings out for parts of the coast and ranges. Now, the cold and windy weather has also brought widespread snowfalls to the Alps, the Brindabellas and parts of the central tablelands.
It's something snow lovers wait patiently for all year, but the coronavirus pandemic has sent this year's snow season into disarray. More than 20 centimetres of snow has fallen at Perisher and Thredbo over the past 24 hours. Cecily Russell owns an outdoor supply store in Cooma and says it's devastating the snow can't be enjoyed by the masses.
I personally think it's going to be a bumper season. I think we're going to have the most snow that we've had in a long time.
And she's worried about the consequences for the entire region.
In the little towns like Berriedale, Dalgety, those places, the impact will be harder, definitely.
The people whose livelihood depends on a successful ski season are concerned about the outlook.
And it's a carry-on effect into the community. If there's no snow, then people don't build things, and of course I'll be out of a job.
The major ski resorts are still aiming to have a season of some description, although except it's likely to be shorter than usual. High country businesses are desperately hoping for an easing in government restrictions in coming weeks. After a mild start to autumn, the cold snap arrived suddenly in New South Wales. In the central west, it triggered a sheep grazier's warning.
For us, it's a matter of just making sure that the sheep have good nutrition and good shelter.
Back on the slopes, visitors might not be clamouring for the shelter of accommodation, but ski resorts hope these unusually quiet scenes are short-lived. Claire Wheaton, ABC News, Thredbo.
Has backed the Mayor of Bega, Christy McBain, as his preferred candidate in the looming by-election in Eden-Monaro. The Labor MP Mike Kelly resigned yesterday, citing health concerns. Anthony Albanese says Ms McBain is the right person to represent the South Coast region that's been hit by bushfires, drought and now coronavirus.
Leadership needs to happen, and it needs to happen at a local level. With the resignation of Mike Kelly, now is the time that Eden-Monaro has a reset button.
The State Liberal Minister Andrew Constance and New South Wales Nationals leader John Barilaro are also considering running.
I've got a tough decision to make. I love what I do. I love the role that I've got. I'm the Deputy Premier of New South Wales. I get to work with the most incredible leader in Gladys Berejiklian, and her generosity, her counsel over the last few days will go a long way to what my final decision will be.
Labor currently holds the seat of Eden-Monaro by a margin of 0.9%. A teenager has been jailed for 35 years for the brutal stabbing murder of a service station attendant in Queanbeyan. Zishan Akbar was killed by two youths aged 15 and 16 during the robbery in April of 2017. The older boy repeatedly stabbed the 29-year-old Pakistani national and wrote the letters IS in blood on the window.
The deceased was working by himself that evening. There was nobody who could come to his assistance. He was in a position of complete vulnerability. He was largely, if not completely, defenceless.
The older boy was handed a sentence of at least 23.5 years and the younger offender a minimum term of 10 years and 9 months. Let's turn to finance now. Investors have started the month with a bout of heavy selling. The broader market index tumbled nearly 5%, its biggest sell-off since late March. Here's Philip Lasker.
Up in the Northern Hemisphere, they reckon November to April, winter, is the best time to hold stocks. So they say sell in May and go away. It appears to have caught on in Australia. Today's dismal performance also wiped out most of this week's gains. Property groups were in the firing line, as were mining, energy and banking stocks. Austal was smashed after losing out on a $5.5 billion contract to build 10 US Navy frigates. And Australia's biggest wine company, Treasury Wine Estates, was hit with a second-class action for allegedly misleading the market about its poor performance in the US. The economic data in the US was pretty dismal as well, and that weighed on equities everywhere. The housing market is losing steam. Melbourne, Hobart and Canberra did not gain ground in April, but generally the moves were fairly modest. So when we look at the regional and national numbers, they are still positive for the month and year. But the storm is coming. Auction clearance rates have plunged, so price expectations aren't being met. And sentiment, which tracks house prices pretty closely, has also collapsed. The Australian dollar has taken a bit of a tumble right across the board. It's now well under 65 US cents. The local currency has been one of the world's strongest against the US dollar over the past 6 weeks. Our share market has underperformed during that time. The US Federal Reserve has undermined the American dollar by printing money, but much of last month's global optimism about economies beginning to open up and Australia's handling of the COVID-19 crisis has been channeled through the Aussie dollar rather than the share market. And that's finance.
The latest property data shows house prices in Sydney are holding steady during the coronavirus crisis. Prices have risen 0.4%, slightly higher than the national figure. The number of sales across the country has plummeted over the past month to the lowest level since 1990. The property research group CoreLogic says although prices are stable, people are not keen to buy or sell.
Sydney is particularly vulnerable to declines in international migration. That's where a lot of housing demand comes from. So the fact that Australian borders are closed means that this could have a particularly dampening effect on the Sydney property market.
House price growth is expected to slow further in the coming months. Well, while it may feel much longer, it's now been 1 month since Premier Gladys Berejiklian enacted stricter coronavirus measures. Life changed dramatically for many of us, and as people search for ways to adapt to the new normal.
My name is Ibatanya Abukasa. I'm a DJ, event producer, curator and the creative director of a DIY arts platform called Irregular Fit. One day I woke up and all of a sudden all my gigs were cancelled. Tried to look for different ways to adapt. So as a DJ, started doing sort of live streams. It's Philly. It's really fun to see a group of people dancing around, and there's been so many people that haven't been able to access clubs, bars, etc. It's lovely to have like this online space where people can just like enjoy music from the comfort and safety of their own home.
So what actually has happened since the COVID virus has hit? The oyster farmer who would normally be harvesting oysters and sending them off to wholesalers, which is probably 80% of our sales go to the wholesale market, instead of getting a phone call every week to say, look, send us so many bags of oysters, that just dried up. When this is all over, make sure you have oysters on your plate at least once or twice a week.
Hi, my name's Neil Grigg. I am a milliner, and normally at this time of the year, I am doing lots of hats for the races, for weddings, and for the odd party or two. Things changed. And suddenly it's reinvent myself. What the hell am I going to do? And that's when I started just doing a mad little mask for a friend. And then I put it online. And it's growing like topsy. It's fabulous. It really has been a hard lesson, but a good lesson. And yeah, we're on our way.
We are indeed on our way. Let's go back to the weather now. Graham, will there be much change in the weather over the weekend?
So really over the weekend, the only thing that's going to change is the wind strength. It'll still be very strong tomorrow, but it will ease off as we move through Sunday. Much of Sydney recorded single-figure minimums, and despite maximums of 16 to 18, the wind chills were also in single figures for most of the day. Now, rainfall today mostly contracted to just the southern slopes and ranges. Only a few light falls about the central tablelands, I should say. Argalong and Batlow recorded 24 millimetres, 16 at Tumbarumba and 13 for Albury Airport. And Thredbo Top Station recorded a gust to 117 kilometres per hour. Mountain Boyce also around 93. Murwillumbah was the only town with above average May maximum. Now, complex low south of Tasmania is going to maintain the strong and gusty winds across the southeast of the state tomorrow before it gradually eases during Sunday. A large and strong high-pressure system is going to become the dominant feature in the state, but that will see some frost about the ranges and slopes early next week and some coastal showers on Monday through to Wednesday. Now, very little change in all the southeastern cities tomorrow. Cold, wet and windy. We've got dry and sunny elsewhere though. And the damaging winds across the southeast will continue. We've got showers more widespread and heaviest about the southern slopes and ranges, and patchy falls about the central tablelands and slopes. So partly cloudy along the tablelands and the upper Hunter, but it should be dry and mostly sunny elsewhere. Strong and gusty winds apart from the northern rivers and possible damaging winds for parts of the Hunter. And gale force winds on the Hunter waters, strong on offshore waters further north. Partly cloudy with showers possible along the tablelands, but more widespread in the south with snow to 1,200 metres, and sunny for the coast with gusty winds throughout. Gale force winds on all the waters with very rough seas between 2 to 5 metres. Now, moderate to fresh winds over the inland, cloudy in the south, a few light and isolated showers possibly extending to the central slopes and plains. Should remain partly cloudy but dry elsewhere. And strong winds are expected on all of Sydney's waters. They will ease later in the day on the closed waters. Our lows will range from 8 to 13. Our tops will reach 18 to 19, and a dry and mostly sunny day. But again, those fresh and gusty winds will keep the wind chills well below the forecast maximum temperatures. Warms up a little bit more on Sunday with lighter winds, but those winds tend onshore Monday night into Tuesday. So, Jeremy, they could just bring an isolated coastal shower or two.
Graham, thank you. That is the very latest from the ABC News team. Thanks for your company. Stay safe. Enjoy your evening.